all the shelves are bare in Darwin of seeds, and I thought perhaps I'll share some tips for those that have bought seeds that may have never planted anything before in Darwin, or maybe have and haven't had any success or little success. So to start with, I'll put seeds into a pot and I'll name it because I forget what I plant when it's a seed, and I plant so many that it's always helpful to write on the pot what seed you've put in there. I use a builder's crayon that you can get from Bunnings, but if you're in lockdown then just try and use your memory. As for where you're planting your seedlings, once they have grown, once you've got success in your pot, I just use potting mix or dirt from the garden, not overly fussed. But the important part is the soil in your garden. What you want to be doing is preparing and protecting your soil for your plants to successfully grow. To do that, it's important to keep the ground covered, and you can go, if you've got hay, that's great. If you can still go out to the shops and get hay, that's great. If not, just use your weeds. So you'll see here on this garden bed with my eggplants growing here, which by the way have amazing little flowers, is that I've used some bark from the trees on the property on the edge of the garden bed to stop the grass growing into the bed. The grass that does grow into the bed, I simply pull it out and make a pile, and that's what this is here. And with that pile, you'll see that it starts to die away and it creates mulch. So effectively it's creating hay if you don't have hay. So that's what all this is. And it's protecting your soil, it's keeping it moist, and it's not letting the harsh sun damage your soil content. If it's still growing a bit, you just roll it over onto itself while it has the opportunity to keep breaking down in all of that matter. So that's effectively managing your weeds and producing your own hay or mulch without having to go to the shop, which in this current climate is very likely for a lot of us. To go beyond just protecting your bed, your soil, you can make compost piles. That might be a little bit challenging at this point in time if you can't go out and get resources. Basically a compost pile is layers of cow manure, green waste, so all your weeds, noting that there should not be any seeds in there because you don't want your seeds to regrow, and hay. So your layers are poo, green, dry, and in between that there's crushed eggshells, tea leaves, coffee grinds, rock dust, lime, all the good things that your soil needs. That sits for 3 months, and then after 3 months it gets put on top of existing garden beds as a black gold topper to your garden. So you'll see that this was done in January. Oops, where am I? And you can see that it's all starting to break down into a really nice soil that you're going to put onto your garden bed, and your plants are just going to go off. The time right now, if you plant with the moon cycles, the time right now is to be preparing your soil to prepare your soil, cover it up. Eggplant's a good cover crop to cover your soil, but if you want to plant something different in, did I just say eggplant? That's sweet potato. It's a good cover crop, but if you want to plant anything else in with that bed, then you would need to pull out all of the sweet potato because it does grow and grow and grow. But you'll see on the edge of this bed, I've got the bark on the edge of the bed so that when the grass does try and grow in, it's really easy just to pull off of the bark and keeps my bed protected. What you can be doing is just pulling out all your weeds or your grass, things that you don't want growing with no seeds, put them up on top of your garden bed and wait for them to break down and die, and then they will become a mulch, effectively a mulch hay covering over your soil. You will get bugs coming and enjoying what you're growing. So I've got some kangkung growing here and you'll see that the bugs love it. That's normal. You don't need to spray it because what's happening is you've got to create a little system within your garden. And a system means that you need healthy soil, healthy plants, and you need to establish that over an amount of time before the bugs start to disappear. So I can still harvest the good leaves that are growing, the nice young ones here. Where are we? If you pull off a couple of these, give them a wash, and if you don't like the holy ones, then you can pull them off, but you just lightly fry them in sesame oil, a bit of oyster sauce and garlic, and Bob's your uncle, awesome meal. So that's also covering my soil here in this garden bed, and you'll see that the soil is still very moist and protected and can do its thing. I don't have anything on the side of this bed to stop the weeds, so just on occasion I'll come through and pull back the grass, which is relatively easy once you know where the edge of your bed is, and then you get rid of those bits of grass into a pile somewhere for them to break down and become more mulch. So we've got a beaker. It's a good leafy green that you can lightly fry and add to your meals. That grows extremely easy. Basil, garlic chives, easy as. Here's some more weeds that are breaking down to become mulch for the garden. And you'll see that underneath it all, it is slowly starting to die. Those bits that didn't get pulled out of the ground properly, it's easy enough to just pull the roots out, roll it over on top of each other, and just wait for it to die and break down. It's pretty simple, cost effective, good way to manage your weeds. If you sprayed your weeds with something from the store, you might have to, you'll struggle a bit to get the health of your soil come up, but it's just over time adding more stuff. It's about adding organic matter to your garden beds rather than things from the store. This path here's got the wood down to again protect the soil, even though I'm not planting on the path, it's a footpath. I don't want the weeds growing there because it's just easier for me to manage when there's less weeds around on a large scale garden bed. If you're fortunate enough to have a mulcher, you can put your trim your trees back and put your trunks through the mulcher and make wood chips, but not everyone has a mulcher. Bit of spinach growing there, maybe called Spanish, maybe not, don't always remember, but I know you can eat it. So that goes on my toast with egg every morning. Chilies grow all year round pretty much if you look after them. So over here we've got a turmeric growing, and with the compost pile I showed you before, that'll be ready in a couple of weeks, and what I'll do is put handfuls of that in amongst this turmeric to give it another feed. And so that's what we're doing right now with the moon cycle, is we're feeding the soil so I can put the compost down in with that, and they'll just love that. What turmeric does is during the dry season the leaves will start to die and all that goodness goes into the roots, and once there are no leaves left all along here, that's when you can dig up your turmeric, harvest it, or leave it in the ground dormant waiting for next year. Corn grows all year round. Here's some little baby ones cruising up. You can put beans grow at the moment. Put beans in between your corn because the beans will grow up the corn stalks. You need to grow your corn close together in a big bunch because they'll help each other to stand up, and when they do have their flowers at the top, the way that they pollinate is when the wind blows those little bits of the flowers, they fall down, and the idea is they fall down to where your corn is forming, and they need to make that connection. But if you've only got one corn stalk and the wind blows and it blows it too far away from the plant, then it's not going to get pollinated. So when you've got a group of them, it's pretty much cross-pollinating, but it's the same type of corn, so it doesn't really matter. But that's how your fruit will grow, from that pollination. If you don't get the pollination, the corn won't form. So that's pretty much, I think, a really good starting point for those that have gone out and bought seeds and don't really know what to do. Use your weeds. Please use them. Don't spray them because you just destroy them. You can't put them into your bed. Well, you can, but your soil don't like that. You don't really like that either. You don't know it, but you don't. So right now, like I said, the moon phase, we're focusing on getting our soil healthy, adding stuff to the soil, and next week, 1st of April, as the moon starts becoming full, that's when you want to start planting your seeds. So you can use the pots that I showed you earlier, or you can direct plant into the ground. That's a bit trickier because you may forget what you planted where, or some seeds just don't really like going straight into the ground for some reason. Haven't figured that one out yet. But I just find it easier to put it in pots, then you can transplant later. So that's as the moon becomes full is when you want to be planting seeds. Loofahs grow in Darwin. Here's a baby with its flower on the end, so it would have got pollinated by the bees. As they grow, You can eat them when they're small. Can't see any small ones on here at the moment to eat. So when they are small, about up to 10 centimetres, maybe, you know, the width of your fingers, that's when you can just slice them in half and lightly fry them in a bit of butter. Great vegetable to add to your meals. Or you let them grow like this. When they start to become brown and die, that's when you can take it off the vine, pull all the outer off of it, outer skin, and then you'll have your loofah sponge on the inside, and you'll probably get about 20 to 30 seeds in that. So if you shake it, it kind of sounds like a rattle. But yeah, important, collecting the seeds out of it. If you're letting something grow to that stage where it's got seeds inside, keep your seeds. If you're harvesting seeds from what you've grown, put them in the fridge so that they can last in our awesome climate up here in Darwin. So I think that's all I can offer up. Not that I'm an expert, but I've been trying for some time to grow food, and I've got success, and I've figured out a few of those basic rules. Protect your soil, add organic matter to it, go forth and conquer. We got this.